We want to make sure that we are affirming, right? We want to make sure that we are affirming the right mindset. I am an educated BYOB master trader anointed for wealth. I am the signal. All my trades in profit. I am 777. So let's go ahead and let's make sure we get ready. But I want to get out of the way. I'm excited here this morning. I definitely want to make sure that I move out of the way because we have a phenomenal, and I do mean a phenomenal individual that is actually going to go ahead and deliver this profit call for you all this morning where we are focused on the indices. Now, let me tell you why that's so significant. So when I tell you all that you want to make sure that you let everybody know this is BYOB movement worldwide, you want to make sure that you are reaching out. You want to make sure that you let them know that Be Your Own Bank is back and we're coming in strong for the new year, because this individual has over 40 years experience in management positions, in education, consulting, just curriculum and instruction. But let me tell you a little bit about what's so significant, because he's been an investment banker in institutional, like we're talking about institutional level. We're talking about management, banking firm, director of a major municipal retirement system. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you. So I'm here to turn this call over to none other than Dr. Derek Kenner. Dr. Kenner, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Good morning, Ms. Dyer, and thank you so very, very much. It's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to work with you. Today is the beginning of a new phase of the BYOB movement, and I am proud to be part of our growth and development. Ms. Dyer, you've been the guidance and mentorship for all of us, and you have provided me and my other colleagues. And I just want to thank you, because you are indeed the BYOB educators master trainer. So, as I stepped here to share with you some information, I'm going to share my screen with you and welcome you to this aspect of the BYOB market morning calls. I want to welcome you and say greetings and good morning to those of you who have been up for a while. Greetings to you and good morning to those of you who are just getting up. I'm Dr. Derek Kenner, master trader and BYOB educator, and I welcome you to the 9 a.m. live in the market profit call, where we focus on indices. Now we'll get to some Bitcoin and look at some currency pairs as well, if times allow. But we're getting started right now, so I want you to drop your affirmations in the chat and let us know where you're calling from, just as Ms. Dyer asked us to. Because, as she mentioned, nothing has changed. What we're trying to do right now is continue the work that has been going on for the last 3 years. This period of time, I think it's next week, or even this week, we are celebrating the 4th year of the BYOB movement. And the movement itself has grown to the extent where we have had the opportunity to expand our curriculum and expand our educators. And we really want to expand the business to make sure it accrues to everyone's benefit. So I want to say good morning and greetings to Minnesota. Good morning to Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland, Tennessee. Good morning. Good morning, Jacksonville. Good morning and greetings from Manchester, UK. Good morning to South Carolina. Good morning, Tampa. Good morning, Orlando. Greetings to Thailand. Greetings from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Greetings to Chicago. Good morning, Toledo, Ohio. Good morning, New Jersey. Now, as you drop those chats, your affirmations and into the chat, we appreciate that. I want to welcome each and every one of you to the BYOB worldwide movement, the greatest economic movement in the history of mankind. So continue to drop your chats and affirmations. I want to say good morning to everyone here and appreciate you being with us. But this is your first time on the call, please drop a 111 in the chat. If you're still learning how to cash out, will you drop a 222 in the chat? And if you're cashing out right now, drop a 777 in the chat. And if you have the opportunity to compound your account, drop an 888 in the chat. As Ms. Dyer said, we're streaming on Facebook and YouTube, so you can plug in there if you'd like. And think about these affirmations that we're making. I am a BYOB master trader. I am the signal. All my trades end in profit. I'm an educated trader. Know this, our affirmations work when you believe in them. They work when you allow them to level set your mind with focus, meditation, prayer, and peace, because it requires that type of mental and soulful environment to be successful as we look at these charts. Because, as many of you have seen from the very beginning, sometimes it can be confusing. But what we have is an opportunity not only to get educated with some of the best education in this industry that's on the market, but we also have the opportunity to talk with the people who created these tools, who created our strategy, and to work with us as we grow together to get to the place of our own desired wealth. Now, for those of you who are new to this call, let me help you understand how our weekly call schedule works. On Monday through Thursday at 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. Eastern Time, we're live in the market with focusing on Forex pairs and indices. And Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, we have our BYOB market talks. Tuesday evening, we focus on the BYOB cash out strategy basics, followed by a talk with finance doctor. On Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have our HFX simplified basics class, followed by live HFX trading. Now, if you've never seen these, you really need to tune into this, because there's a lot of learning and a new tool for many people who have not traded options. And on Thursday, we end our week with our BYOB advanced training, followed by a talk with the finance doctor. So if you're all ready, let's get your tea, your coffee, or your green smoothie, and let's get started. I say green smoothie because that's my beverage of choice in the morning. Now, we have to get started by looking at the news, and we want to do that by starting in our with economic calendar. And as we see here, what we're doing is we're looking for red folders, because the news pushes and impacts the markets in ways that we as traders need to be aware of so we can make some wise decisions when we trade. So when we look at Forex Factory, FX Street, which we have on the screen right now, we see that there are no red folders in the US. There are two in Australia later this afternoon at about 12:30 Eastern Time. But we don't have any red folders here for the states to keep aware of. We want to make sure that we are aware of the red folders, because we don't want to trade before markets open. Our market opens in the United States in about 21 minutes. And we also don't want to trade with the red folders. Now, when we look at our Forex Factory, we also see that things are relatively so. No red folders right there to be aware of. So that information is solid to us, because we now have a chance to be aware of what we might need to look at later as we make these trades. Now, let's start off by looking at our indices. Now, there are many viable options for indices, and we're going to start with our DAX 40. Now, because there's so many indices out there, we have to choose the ones that you feel most comfortable trading with. And keep in mind that they're all on different time zones. Now, money flows around the sun. And so as a result, you need to pick the best index and the best time for you to trade. So we're going to look at the DAX, because the DAX is a very volatile German index of the top 40 highly capitalized companies in Germany. As you know, an index itself is a strong barometer of what's happening in that particular company. Now, we're going to start with the DAX, because if we start with the sun, it rose first in Germany, and then France, and then Great Britain, and then the United States over time. The point is that there's been a lot of activity out there for those of you, particularly those of you in the UK, who may have information about the DAX, the French index, or the UK 100, the FTSE 100, to really give you an idea of what's happening. Now, that news may be news that's happening. It even started happening yesterday. So we need to be aware of our opportunities to trade globally. We are a global movement, and we need to trade on a global level. So what we see here in the DAX is that, like most indexes, the DAX has been growing over time. If we go out to the 4 hour or even the day, we can see that the DAX itself over time has grown, as most indexes do. And if we start at our 5 to get a better look at where we are, we can see that over this last period of time, since the beginning of this year, we've had, actually going back to January of this year, we see that it has fallen. It has been selling over a period of time, has corrected, and right now we're in a downward trend that's happened since the 6th of January, just last week. So, we see a market here that is trending down. Right now, it has corrected and gone up, but it's also has fallen as it has sold, and it's now impulsing and correcting to the point where we see where we are right now today. If we were to look at this itself, we see that it has, as an index, has fallen to the point where it's now in the current market. It's currently in the sell. And we know that because our Stochastic, which is our leading indicator for the BYOB cash out strategy, tells us that the blue line has crossed over the red and it's now in a downward movement, indicating the sell. We always try to find confluence with that at the 30, and the 30 is showing us that let's make this a little bigger for you. The 30 is showing us that the stochastic is in the upper movement right now, slightly, and when we have a red candle. So those two are not in confluence. We want to get to confluence. I'm going to explain the BYOB cash out strategy more specifically in a minute. But right now, we want to kind of focus on some of our overseas indexes. And we do so, we're going to look at the UK 100 or the FTSE 100. The FTSE 100 is the top 100 companies that are highly capitalized company on the UK stock index. And that also gives us a good sense of what's happening, not only in Great Britain and the UK, but also globally, because many of these companies have high global sales. And as a result, it kind of gives us a sense of what's happening in that industry and kind of around the world. And as you can see too, over time, this has risen because indexes grow. Money marketers like indexes because of their size and the tendency for them to continue to grow. And we have seen this over time. Right now, just as we saw with the DAX, which is a highly liquid index, it's been in a sell motion recently, and right now it's the stochastic is telling us currently in a sell as well. Now, the third index we want to look at is the French 40, the CAC 40. The CAC 40 is a little slower than the other two indexes from the perspective that there's not as much liquidity. Again, it's following a similar pattern, but it's also worth us actually knowing what's happening in that market to the extent that there might be some opportunities there that you always want to have a chance to look at. Now, let's look at the Dow, the US 30, as we demonstrate our BYOB cash out strategy. Now, first of all, let's talk about the strategy. This strategy was created by Ms. Dyer, who you heard earlier. Ms. Tasha M. Dyer was a major in the United States Army, and she traded for the Army. This strategy is simplified, and it can be used on all assets. The beauty of it is it can be used on pairs, indices, digital currency, metals, or options. Now, it has three basic indicators that get us started. The first is the stochastic, and the stochastic is this purple area where we see here at the bottom. And the stochastic is our leading indicator. It measures movement of the price of an asset, and it gives us clues about trend shifts. So we see here, if we were to look at this point in the stochastic, pull this down, because what we want to do is see how it flows. We're going to look at the market that's selling now. And the stochastic is the first thing we look at, and we follow the blue line as it crosses over and follows the red line. Now, we're going to do that first in the stochastic because the stochastic has two areas that we're interested in. Area between the 20 and the 80. And this basically this purple space right here. And right now, if we look at stochastic at this point, you see that it is overbought. The market is indicating that it has bought and is likely to be in a position where it's going to sell. Now that's the point where we are most interested, because we're most interested when the stock is falling or when it's rising, as in this case. So if we were to open this up some more and get a sense for what we want to look at, the first indicator is the stochastic. We always want to look there first. And secondly, we want to look at our second indicator, which is a flat red candle. We look at Hikinashi candles, which are red and green candles. They represent the average price of an asset. And they help us identify whether a market is pushing up or pushing down in an asset. In this case, we see a red candle, and that red candle is telling us that the market is pushing down. And we can see candles with various wicks. That does have some meaning to us. We want a candle that has a flat top. And this is the first candle we see with the flat top is right here. So we're going to put a marker over there to kind of keep our eyes on this candle, because we're going to look at how it looks in different time frames to see if they are confluent. So as we see here, this is our red candle indicated. The stochastic is moving down. We have a red candle. But this red candle doesn't have our third indicator, which is a P-star. The P-stars are parabolic stops and reversals. They are a lagging indicator, just as the Hikinashi candles are. And there are dots or crosses that travel above and below the candles. It helps us also determine our stop loss. So in order to have all three of these indicators in alignment, we need to have a candle that has a flat top when it's selling and a P-star above it. And this is the candle that indeed does have that. So we want to keep our eye on that, because that's our first indicator. And we start analyzing indexes at the 5-minute level, but we want to see confluence in them at the 30. So if we move to the 30 and try to find the same spot, because we want to get a real good indication of what's happening with that. When we look at it here, we're seeing that same candle, the stochastic at this point is on a rise, and we see a green candle, which has wicks on both ends. So that tells us basically that this is not in alignment. As a result, it's not an ideal, well, it shouldn't be even considered for a trade right now. Now, we mentioned, just for educational purposes, that there's a third indicator. And the third indicator is not third indicator, but the third time confluence that we wish to have is at the 3-minute. And at the 3-minute, we see that if it were to turn, it's likely to be in confluence as well, but it's not moving now, so we're just gonna move on. Let's see if we can get it here. Okay. As we can see, the 3-minute at this point, we have the stochastic going down as it was with the 5-minute. And so it is in confluence with that, but it really doesn't matter as a point for us to consider making a trade, because it wasn't in confluence with the 30-minute. So what's the strategy? Strategy is to go in, focus on the stochastic first, see if we have a candle, if it's selling, that has a red flat top with a P-star on the bottom, and if it's buying, a green flat candle at the bottom with a P-star under that as well. Once we have that information, then we see if there's confluent with between our 5, our 30-minute, and also our 3-minute. When those three are in the case, are in hand, we now have the opportunity to make a trade. And if you don't, sometimes we need to make the trade at that moment, but many times we need to wait. So it's important for us to keep our mind on what we want to do, and also keep our mind on some trades that we might want to put in our kit to look at later. Now, let's look at the NASDAQ, one of the major trading indicators of what's happening in the economy of the United States, because it is so large, number one. Number two, it has a number of of high-tech companies in the NASDAQ. Those you may not know, we have companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all in the NASDAQ. And there are 3,000 stocks in the NASDAQ listed on the NASDAQ exchange. So it represents a pretty good sense of where the market is going. Now, the NASDAQ itself is also an index that has moved in ways that we've just discussed. But the thing I want to focus on now is the tool that we are using to analyze the NASDAQ and analyze any of the assets that we have across the board. The tool that we're using, as you can see here, is called the Vibrata. It used to be called the Web Analyzer. And it is the premier tool that's set up perfectly for the BYOB strategy. It's a trigger. It provides triggers for us, as you can see here on the left. It provides triggers for us that indicate a reversal of market direction for any asset that we're looking at. And it's a type of tool that major market makers and banks have used for years. Now, everyday traders like you and me have not had access to this type of tool and the success that comes from using this tool. But our visionary and our CEO of the BYOB movement, Mr. Gerald D. Rogers, met with the creator of the Vibrata and is currently the spokesperson for the Vibrata. They came together and decided that this tool was perfect for our strategy. And that's why we have a strategy that is copywritten, it's conservative, and it has a tested rate of accuracy of 92%. The two work together so beautifully that we now, as individual traders, can go in and look at the market and have a set process of what we're going to do to buy the assets that we wish to trade for, the assets that we wish to trade for, and to get the wealth that comes from the result of that. Now, as Ms. Dyer mentioned, I've had the opportunity to work with major municipal retirement systems and co-found 2 investment banking firms at the institutional level. Now, why is that important? It's important because as an investor, as many of us have been in various other modes in our past, I didn't have control of the assets. As an investor, you go in, you purchase an asset, a stock, a mutual fund, and you just wait for it to rise. And as it rises, you're in profit with that asset. But when it falls, you have no control and no way to profit from the fact that it's been selling in the market. So, to me, the Vibrata is like a 3-speed or 10-speed bike. Now, if you remember when you used to ride a bike that didn't have any speeds on it, you really couldn't control the speed going up the hill, and could you control the speed going down? Going down, you just had to hold on and hope you didn't hit a bump. Going up, you had to pedal as hard as you could and hope that you can get to that top of that hill. That's the way investing is. With the Vibrata, we have a tool that allows us to control and benefit from the market rising and the market falling. And the market falling really is the one that we really benefit the most because we never have had that type of control to develop wealth as we have now. So the Vibrata is a magnificent tool because we can control and we can profit from any movement in the market. So when we look at the NASDAQ, we see here that recently it has been in a sell, has been corrected here, and the sell is corrected in a sell. So let's look at it closely to get a better sense for this. If we were to look at the NASDAQ now, we can and see where we have been trading. Where has the market really placed this asset? So we know that it has had a resistance around this level. It's had support at around this level. And for since last week, we have been traveling in this zone where the market has not broken out of that level as well. Now, it's important to know that we also have a psychological level right here at 15,600. Now, that's important to note because our psych levels are a very strong stop sign that we have to keep in note all the time because it's important to know that we shouldn't make a trade that has not moved past one of our psychological levels. And when I say move past, that the body of that candle has to move through that psych level before we can really trade wisely. As we can see here, the NASDAQ has been in this zone over a period of time. And just today, it broke through this support line. It impulsed up and it came through as of this morning. So this is something, this would have been a good time as it relates to the 5 to make a trade to sell this. But we shouldn't do that because, I mean, until we understand what's happening with the stochastics as well as the other time frames. So we see here that at this point, the stochastic was moving down in downward motion. It came back up and again. But right now, when we look at the stochastic, open this up a bit, you can see that it is moving up slightly at the 5. We look at the 30 for confluence, and we see that it's still moving down. It's oversold right now on the 30. So there wouldn't be a confluence enough for us to make a trade right now, but it would be something for us to look at because basically what we're looking for is it to turn around on 30 to be in line with the 5 that is also moving up slowly. We look at the 3 to get a sense for what has been doing because our 3-minute leads into our 5-minute. We can see that there's some upward movement there. We also want to look and see, get a sense for where the market is going in the long-term direction. So when we look at our 4-hour, it shows that it's slightly moving down. So if the market is moving down, we need to be aware of what's happening, say at the 30, where it's also moving down. Again, the information that we gain here really works to our benefit when we are in a position to sell. Many times, the key to successful trading is waiting for the right opportunity. And waiting for the right opportunity requires patience. We say a patient trader is a profitable trader. An educated trader is a profitable trader. So the education plus the profit, plus the patience rather, really gets us to the point where we really can begin to see some success. So it's important to make sure that we do that. So next, let's look at the S&P 500. S&P 500 does not give us any triggers in the vibrata, and we're going to go back to the vibrata to pick out some live trades in just a bit. But the S&P tracks well with the Dow, the US 30, so we want to keep that in mind because S&P does have some liquidity in it that's worthy of us looking at over time. If we look at it just as it is right at this very moment, we can see that the stochastic is moving down, even sideways to a bit at the 5-minute. We look at how it might be confluent. At the 30, we also see a downward movement of the stochastic, which means that they're both in confluence with each other. At the 5, it's moving down. There's a red candle with a flat top at this point, but we're looking for the next red candle with a flat top because the PSARs have been following the flow of the sell that the market is doing right at this point. And we go back to the 3 to see if we can confluent on that point. You see there's no confluence here, and the market is indeed moving up. We can even look down at the 1 to see where it might be going. And again, we see that the market is tipping down at that level right now. But for as far as where we want to go in the future, the market is in a downward motion when we look at the 1 hour. Excuse me, which that gives us a sense of the direction of the market. Now, as you can see, we look at each of these assets, each of these indices in the same manner, whether they're foreign indices or US indices, because they all are basically telling us the same thing. They're telling us what the market is doing today. We keep in mind the red folders, information we may have gotten on that. Now, the market has just opened. We want to make sure that we keep our eye on what takes place. It opened about a minute ago. Actually, it's opening right now. It's 8:30. So let's take a look at, keep our eye on the Dow. We're going to move this over and see if there's any action. And we can see that we just saw The stochastic at the 3-minute move down. When we look at the market, we see we've got another 3 minutes before the next 5-minute marker. But right at the bell, the market did fall on the US 30 and the Dow. And we're waiting to see what's going to happen on the NASDAQ. Now, it's important that even though there might be some movement in the indices when the bell rings and the market's open, the exchange is open, because there's typically a lot of activity as soon as the exchange is open. It's important for us to not necessarily jump into the market the right away, because typically there's some pullback right away. And sometimes it takes a period of time to pass before we can really get an understanding as to the direction of the market. One of the things we always want to think about is, where is our liquidity? We can see right now our average liquidity will be at about 94%, and we're at about 165%, which is good, because and which is typical of any market opening, whether it's the U.S. markets, which open at 9:30 Eastern time, or it's our foreign markets, which have opened 5 or 6 hours ago, depending on their time zone. It's important to know that there's a level of activity there. If we want to find the ideal time to trade in the United States, it's really between about 4 a.m. and 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. And that's because we have a lot of activity that's taking place in those foreign markets around those times. And the US dollar, being a major currency around the world, really has a lot of influence as to what happens with those markets as it relates to liquidity and activity. Now, we like liquidity and activity because that gives us more opportunities to make trades. So when you find your best index or your best currency pair that you want to trade, keep an eye on when you're trading, because many times, we have to get up a little early, excuse me, to make those trades. Those of you in the UK, if you're trading some of these pairs and some of these indices, it's during the day, so it's a little bit more convenient for you as far as time. But time really shouldn't be an impetus. It keeps us from making these trades, because, to be successful, sometimes you have to be uncomfortable. And uncomfortable may mean you have to really go in and make the trade when the trade is happening, not when you feel that you might want to trade. Now, we look at our liquidity, we see liquidity is double since we started this conversation. It was at around 160, now it's at 364. So let's take a look and see what's happened with the S&P. We can see that over the last 5 minutes, last 10 minutes, it has fallen or sold to the extent that it was almost oversold. When we look at the NASDAQ, we have the same type of activity, although the NASDAQ over the last, look at the last 5 minutes, has fallen, but it also has right now the stochastic is going in the upward direction, indicating that it's moving towards a buy. Now, this candle here is pretty significant because it's a red candle, but it has a long wick on each end. That's an indication that this candle can go either way. And given the fact that the stochastic is moving up, it's very possible this candle can turn red over the next 5 minutes. We take a look at the 3 minute, we see the 3 minutes stochastic is still moving down. At the 1 minute, it's also moving downward oversold. So the chances that this next candle, which is going to take place in 11 seconds, could likely be a green candle. Well, so the importance to us is we want to make sure that's in line here with our 30 as well. The 30 is also moving up slightly. The stochastic is moving up slightly. We have a red candle with a PSAR above it for the 30. That's fine for our confluence. But we have to make sure that we keep our eyes. And we see that we have a PSAR flip right now with this most recent candle of the NASDAQ. The PSAR has flipped. We don't have a flat candle yet, but that's something we need to keep an eye on. So let's take some time to look at some indices that have been triggered by the vibrato. We talked about the France 40. We have 2 triggers for the France 40. Both are to sell. over the last hour and 20 minutes. That's a long time ago, given what the market has been doing now. Um, so, we have to make sure that we understand the relevance of the triggers, in that the triggers are telling us something that the market is likely to reverse within that certain time frame. And these are both sells at the 5 minute, but it happened an hour and 21 minutes ago. So the relevance to us now, being able to use this to take advantage of this change in market and really set up our charts to see if that's an opportunity for us to sell, may not be there anymore because it has taken so long. We see some pretty active movement right now at the NASDAQ. Let's look at the S&P. S&P continues to fall. The market has been open for 10 minutes now. And when we look at the hour, we see where it is. But when we look at the 5 minute, we're also seeing that right now the stochastic, as you can see, the blue line is still going in somewhat of a downward momentum right now, slightly down. And it is indeed in line with, it's not in line actually, because it's stochastic at the 30 minute. It's not a confluence because it's moving up. And if we will go to a 3 minute just for educational purposes, it is moving down too. So overall, we look at the 4 hour, looks like S&P is going to be moving and continue moving in a downward position for a while. The 1 hour is also telling us the same thing, that it has some room to move, although it's almost oversold right now. Still has an opportunity for it to move. Now, why don't we take a look at some Bitcoin to see what Bitcoin is doing, because this market is moving as fast as it is. So if we look at Bitcoin, we see here, let's see if there's any triggers. There was a trigger for Bitcoin to sell at the 5. We look at the 5 for Bitcoin. Move this over, we can see we have a sell that came out 2 minutes ago. So it would be right here. And that sell trigger is indicating that this selling movement of the market has a good chance that it might turn around. That makes sense too, because when we look at the stochastic is in an overbought position. That plus the trigger tells us that, it's a very good chance that it may turn around and begin to buy. The market will begin to buy. We're not buying anything, but the market is beginning to buy. So when we look at the 30 to see how confluent we are with that, we get basically the same information. There's confluence right there. And we've moved down to the 1, there's confluence there as well. So Bitcoin is something that we want to keep an eye on now. Bitcoin moves very fast, very quickly. We can see that this changes here where this has all happened today at the 3 minute. We look at the 5 minute, we can see how Bitcoin has risen throughout the day, has come back a little bit, impulse, and has pretty much been pretty much of a sell since, except for this impulse, to where we are right now. So that just gives you a sense how fast Bitcoin can move. The important aspect for us is that we don't want to jump in Bitcoin until we're really sure that we have understanding of what the market is, because for Bitcoin, you really need to do a top-down analysis. And if you're not at that level yet, you want to be careful when you trade Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a support line about here the last few days, and it has priced out. It's right now at 1.83175, and if we looked at where the resistance line has been, we can pretty much look at something that's right about here, and it has gone through this resistance line at this point. Again, part of today, but it's also come down in a sell that has been past both these resistance lines. What's significant to note is that we do have right here a psychological level, which is a hard stop for us. And this movement downward in the sell direction has been pretty significant because it has broken through both a significant level. This is a mid-significant level. It's not a major significant level, but it's something that we need to keep an eye on, because it gives us information as to how strong this move has been. And not only has it gone through the mid-significant level, but it's also broken this next support line. So it's in a pretty strong move and probably warrants some time to continue watching this setup to see if there's an opportunity later this morning. If we take a look at Ethereum, another highly capitalized digital currency, we see somewhat of a similar type movement. Yesterday, it has flowed from here, but it's somewhat, again, still in a zone that we have to be aware of. And it's been in this zone from here, and it's topped out about here on a short term. We go back in history and look at Bitcoin, and look at Ethereum. We want to be able to see what it has done in the past, and we do that by going up to say our 1 hour or even our 4 hour and give us even a better look at what it's been doing. And as you can see, over time, our current price at 31 or 30 right now is low relative to where Ethereum has been over the past history. If you go back to October of last year, we can see this was the time when Ethereum began a rise in the market, and over time it trended upward pretty significantly to its current high. Let's see if this is the high. Yes, to its current high of about 48.80. So since then, it has corrected and fallen, but it was in a zone for a bit here to here, and it has broken through that zone around November of last year. But since then, we've been in a slight decline, and here recently, even a more significant decline. So Ethereum is like Bitcoin in that we have to be really careful of our understanding of where it is and where it's going before we actually make a decision to trade it for our own portfolios. What's important too is that the activity that's taken place here recently, we see here, needs to be kept in mind too, because this is what's happening now. So Bitcoin and Ethereum are assets that we really need to watch slowly, carefully. Now, going back to seeing where the market is, we go back to the NASDAQ and the Dow. We see again, that's the Stochastic on the Dow. It's beginning to move at the 5. More is leveling out right now. At the 30-minute, we see it doing pretty much the same thing. Actually, it's in the upward movements, indicating this, the buy that's likely to be in operation here. And when we go down to a 3 to kind of see whether we are confluent, we see too that it is in a downward movement. So the 4 hour tells us that it's likely that Bitcoin is going to rise to some degree, but right now the Stochastic is telling us, Bitcoin, the US 30, the Dow, is likely to move down as well at some point. Now, another look at our S&P 500 to kind of get a sense for where it might be and see if there's any triggers on that. There's no trigger on either of those. The last was trigger that we've had in the vibrato was the Japan index, which triggered about an hour ago. So when we look at what's happening right now in the S&P 500, we see again, it's in a downward movement at the 1 hour, and at the hour, at the 5 minute rather, it's still continuing to move down. So think about this. Since the market started about 15 minutes ago, after we had this candle that we talked about earlier, we pointed out this candle here, which was a candle that had wicks on both ends. The market continued to fall, and it's fallen for the last 15 minutes to where it is right now. Is it something that we want to look at? Yes, but we want to make sure that we wait for a while because as we can see here, our stochastic is moving in the upper direction now. So we need to see what that's going to do over the next few minutes. Now, let's take a quick look at a couple of currency pairs, because GPB USD, or GU as we call it, is very volatile around this period of the day too. We said the best time again is between 4 a.m. and about 3. And so we can see here over the last hour and 15 minutes, it has been pretty much in a sell. The stochastic has been moving down in downward motion. And so it's been in a sell, slight correction here, but it's been in a sell. So that's something, obviously, particularly those who are interested in currency pairs really need to keep an eye on. Actually, we want to start in the 15 to analyze that. And at the 15, we can see it's right now oversold. When we also compare that for confluence at the 1 hour, we see it's oversold too. We move down to our 5, we see we have a red candle, it's oversold. So this is something actually that you might want to put on your list and make a move. You might even want to break away and make a move now if you feel that that's the trade for you. You'll notice that we'll never actually tell you when to make a trade. We'll tell you when the setup looks good, but the goal of the strategy and the goal of the movement is for you to be the signal. That is, you to understand this sufficiently enough where you can make your own trades based on your own analysis. Because even if you heard somebody who might be right next to you who's made a significantly successful trade, and you jump in the market can move away from you just that quickly, or the opportunity that they had might not be available to you when you decide to go in and make your move. So you also always want to make sure that you're understanding the strategy, learning the strategy, trying to excel in the strategy, because trading is an art, it's not a science. And as you master the skill set, you will refine the art. So we have to let the strategy do the hard work for us. Let the strategy do the analysis for us so that we feel more comfortable in making the trade decisions. Because if you're compounding, and that's real beauty when working with currency pairs and HFX options, when you compound, you really see the wisdom of the BYOB growth and wealth creation system, because compounding allows you to take the 10 pips that you may have earned, the profit from the market moving 10 pips, and you can compound that. And compounding does some amazing things when you have that in your brokerage account. And that's the real beauty of what many people are doing in this movement. They're really taking advantage of the opportunity that we have here. So my advice to myself and to you and to anyone who does this, take the time to learn the strategy as well as you can, because once you understand the strategy, now you have the key for success. Are there any questions, comments, or testimonies? We always want to make sure that, if you have any questions, we want to address those questions, because when we see what the market is doing, we need to try to respond as quickly as we can. Going back to the US 30, we see that the Dow is dropping pretty clearly and pretty rapidly. And those are the top opportunities we need to keep our eye on, because even though we had a green candle back here, we can see now at the current state, the Dow is dropping significantly enough for us to probably have made a trade. If we look at where we are now, we go to the 5, we see that stochastic is moving down. The buy, we have a red candle with a flat top and a PCR above it. We go for confluence. At the 30, the stochastic is moving up, but we have a red candle again with a stochastic above that. We move down for confluence at the 30, and we have another red candle. Look at the 1. We see the 1 also is still in a sell. So US 30, the Dow, something you might want to look at right now. and see if that's an opportunity for you to really get out there and make a trade that's going to accrue to your benefit. Any questions, comments, or testimonies? Okay. Well, we're going to be here every Monday through Wednesday looking at these indices. And I like you to feel comfortable. If you have any questions, ideas, something that might come to your mind, even after the call, you can contact me through Messenger. And if it's something that we need to address, we'll try to pull it out the next time we do our analysis. Because indices move so fast that it's sometimes hard for us to even understand the question. I know that has been my experience. Now, there are many times I wish I could have reached down, and I realize now I could have. And I want to make sure that you know that you can reach out. Let's make this connection sufficiently strong enough so we can go ahead and gain mastery in this market, regardless of your asset that you're working with. Once we have mastery, then we have success. Then we change our families' lives. Then we put ourselves in a different position. We change the arc of our entire legacy. And we want to be able to do that in a positive way. Now, money doesn't do everything, but money is the beginning of something that can allow us to have a basis by which we can build upon that to change our families for the better. So, any other questions, comments, or testimonies? Okay, we're going to take one more look before we ask Ms. Reed to come in and usher us out of this session. I want to take another look and kind of see where we are. We see at the NASDAQ, I just saw it at the US 30, our current candle can go either way right now. It's on the buy. As you can see, the stochastic is moving up real quickly, real slightly, basically. NASDAQ has a candle that can go either way at the 5. So the market looks like it might be shifting. Remember, we had that trigger that said there's going to be a change. I think it was at the US 30. And so the market might be moving in upward direction. As you can see, it's oversold on all 3 US indices. So you want to make sure that stick around for a while and watch the market as it begins to turn and present another trading opportunity for you. So if we don't have any more questions, testimonies, Ms. Reed, can you usher us out of this session with a prayer?
Doctor, all I can say is wow, wow, wow. This has been such a wonderful training this morning. And for that, we thank you. We are so excited. Let's talk to God. Great God, our Father, this is your day and we are your children and you are showing us your way in such an amazing way. You are a wonder-working God, for in your presence there is fullness of joy, and at your right hand pleasures forevermore. Thank you, God, for how you brought us through the great year of 2021 and the transforming of our minds began, God, by the renewing of our minds, God. And we thank you so much for how you so graciously brought us into 2022, this brand new year, this year of elevation and acceleration. God, thank you for how you have added and magnified and multiplied. And this has greatly been proven to us this morning as 2 of our new educators have premiered. God, this has been a wonderful, wonderful morning. And God, we thank you so much that they are living proof of how amazing this movement is. And we are thankful, appreciative, and grateful for our dream team in the persons of Mr. Rogers, Ms. Dyer, Dr. Bythewood, our second generation of educators, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Brantley, Ms. Perry, Mr. Sims, and Pastor Washington, and now, God, our most recent educators in the persons of Mrs. Graham, Dr. Kenner, Mr. Patton, Ms. Turner, and Ms. Morgan Walker. God, you're showing up and showing out through them, each of them, and we thank you so much for the anointing that's upon each and every member of this great movement, God, the BYOB family, present and future. And we can decree and declare that we are 2 million strong on our journey for 6 and 6. In this and in everything, we give you thanks in the precious, holy, and righteous name of Jesus. And God, we thank you. Amen. And thank God. And this officially ends this prophet call. And we are so blessed. We're going to go our way in profit today and abundance and prosperity. And we'll see you tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. God bless you.